Hey, if you're looking to start a speech therapy clinic or practice and you need a set of financial projections, maybe for a potential lender or investor, then you've come to the right place because we have built a financial projection template built specifically for a speech therapy practice. I'm going to walk you through how to use the template, how to fill it out, how to get it ready for potential investors and lenders. And just to give you a little bit of my background, my name's Adam Huxama. I'm the co-founder of ProjectionHub. And before starting ProjectionHub, I was actually an SBA lender for 12 years, where we made over 1,500 SBA loans to startups and small businesses during my time there. So I come to this work with the perspective of an SBA lender and trying to help make sure that your projections are reasonable and going to pass what the expectation would be from a lender's perspective. I am going to put a link in the description of the video below here to this particular template so you can grab that and follow along as we walk through it. Also, if you stick around to the very end of the video, if you're willing to listen to me talk about projections and talk about Excel, then I am going to give you access to a discount code so you can get a discount on this particular template. And then the last thing before I dive into all the details here, some folks just kind of hear this, take a look at the template and say, you know what, I really just want someone to do this for me, someone that is comfortable with Excel, who knows what they're doing, and I just want someone to handle this for me. I know what my plans are, but I don't want to mess with this Excel file. We're here for you. We're happy to help with that. So we offer a service where we can fill out the template based on your specific plans. So happy to do that. If you want to reach out to us at support@projectionhub.com, just send us an email. Let us know you're interested in our help filling it out. We'd be happy to help with that. Okay, let me go ahead and dive into how you can use this template. Okay, so we are going to start on the at a glance tab, and this is kind of the end of the process. So after you filled out all the assumptions, after you filled out all the different tabs, you're going to get this nice at a glance tab with a profit and loss at a glance, some key summary data, use of startup funds, some charts and graphs that you can throw into a business plan or pitch deck. You're also going to get a 5-year income statement summary, 5-year cash flow summary, 5-year balance sheet, and then an income statement, cash flow, and balance sheet broken down by month. And so this is really going to give you everything that you would need for an SBA lender. They may ask you for both monthly projections as well as annualized. So we're going to give you everything that you would need in that case. Now, in order to produce these reports, we have a little bit of work to do. So we're going to jump back here to our input tab. So these blue input tabs are where we have to do a little bit of work. And the first thing you need to know is that every cell here that's highlighted in light blue is an assumption that you can change without breaking anything in the model. So if you want to change the projection start month, you can just type a new date in there. If you want to change how much you're going to personally invest into the business, just type in a new dollar amount. So I'm going to assume here we're starting a new clinic, and I'm going to assume that, maybe it's a physical office. And so let's say you're going to put in an initial investment of $50,000. And then down here, we have a startup loan. So maybe you're trying to get an SBA loan for $200,000 here. We've got to set the interest rate and then the term. So we've got 120 months for a 10-year term. So we've got kind of between the investment that you're putting in and the loan, $250,000 that we're working with. Now, $100,000 of that is going to go towards, we've got office renovations here of $50,000. So let's say you're renting an office, leasing a space, but you need to do some work to get it ready for your clinic. Maybe you need some equipment, maybe you need some furniture. And so we have some startup costs there. Now you'll want to, if you don't own these assets already, you'll want to put month 1 in for the purchase month. So we'll just kind of make all of when you got the investment, when you got the loan, when you did the leasehold improvements, got the equipment and furniture, all in month 1. So it'll kind of be right at the beginning of the model. Now there's a couple other assumptions here that I'll just briefly mention. The accounts payable, this just means that you are going to pay 80% of your bills in the month that you incur the expense and 20% on a delay. So think about things that you put on a credit card. You incur the expense today, but you have maybe a month to pay that, right? And so we're going to assume most of the expenses you'll pay in the month Now accounts receivable, this is pretty important, especially if you're billing to insurance. So we're going to, again, this is a startup, so we're going to say our current accounts receivable balance, our AR balance is 0, but this average days sales outstanding is kind of a fancy way to say how many days is it going to take you to collect after you provide the service. So let's say you have a session and then you're going to bill insurance, and then insurance is going to take a while, take their sweet time to pay you a lot of times, right? And so let's say that you have some patients that are private pay and they pay cash at time of the session. And then you may have some that you're billing to insurance or Medicare or Medicaid. And And so you might have some of those insurance or Medicare or Medicaid paying, it may actually take, maybe it takes 45 days or 60 days to get paid. But you have some of the private pay that pays in like 1 day, right? And so maybe the average is 30 days, right? So that's kind of what we're looking for here, is this average days to collect. Inventory, not really relevant for what you're doing. You're not really selling a product, you're selling your time, your services, right? So we're going to put zeros in here for this inventory assumption. Okay, let's move on to the revenue tab. So here, again, we're saying this is a startup. So we're going to say we have 0 current patients, but maybe we're going to have an advertising budget. And so let's say we're going to spend $300 a month on advertising, and we think that's going to help us acquire new patients. Maybe the cost to acquire a new patient is $150. And so that those paid ads are going to net us 2 new patients a month. And maybe the main way you're going to get, new patients is referrals, word of mouth, organic sources, right? And so that's what we have here. You can set the number of new patients you expect to get each month from referrals or organic sources. Now, one thing you'll notice is that we actually put a negative growth rate in here. So the idea is that maybe over time, when you first open and you're saying, hey, everybody, I'm open, send me referrals, it might be easier to get those initial referrals. And then maybe over time, it might actually get more difficult. So we actually set a negative annual growth rate in terms of getting new patients. So that's the idea there. Now we can set the maximum number of patients that we want to have. So the model will just make sure that you can't have more than whatever number you put in here. And so, if it's just you, if you're going to be the only, speech therapist and it's just a solo practice, then really what you want to put in here is how many patients can you realistically see. And now if you're going to hire additional staff, maybe additional therapists or assistants, you might be able to see more people. And so you can adjust this accordingly. Now, this assumption here is the average patient relationship. So what we're saying here is that the average patient is going to stay with us in the speech therapy program for 1 year. And so what that means is that, we're getting these new patients and they're going to stay in this active patients column for a year, and then they'll cycle through. Okay. And so they'll end up leaving. So the 7 new patients you got here in month 1, they're going to be gone in month 13. And so you're going to kind of have to continually replenish those new patients. Here you can set kind of the annual price increase, cost increases. So this is just really the inflation rate. And then here's your different services. So you can set different service categories and then a visit type. And so what we've got here is this idea of an initial evaluation. And then this could be just standard therapy, intensive therapy, maintenance, follow-up, other services. So, you could put up whatever you want to name these different services here. And then what you can do is set the category for each of these services. So we're going to say this initial evaluation will fall into the evaluation assessment category. And our average fee is going to be $250. Maybe we do have some material costs, some items that you're using for that initial assessment. So this would be your cost. What does it cost you if you have any sort of assessments or physical instruments or products that you're using that are consumable for that session? That's what you want to put here. And then this would be the average number of these sessions per patient per year. Well, for the initial evaluation or the assessment, you're just going to have 1, right? You're not going to do that more often probably than once. Or maybe if you have a patient for more than a year, maybe you're going to do that once a year. You do a new assessment or something like that. But then here, so this would say, okay, for standard therapy, let's say we meet 40 sessions per year on average. For these patients, the average patient is going to come 40 times per year. Okay. And then here we're saying for intensive therapy. Now this, we need to probably adjust. Actually, Patrice, I need to adjust this. So for the initial evaluation or assessment here, we're going to assume that a patient's only going to do that once, right? A new patient will do that once a year. And so we just put 1 here. Now for our standard therapy, now let's say that maybe the standard is weekly. So some patients, or maybe a lot of patients, are going to come, weekly, every week, but not every single patient is going to be on this kind of standard therapy protocol. So even though the ones that are on that protocol are going to come maybe 50 times a year, 52 times a year. Again, this is the average number per active patient. So again, we have to remember that some of these patients are not going to be on this protocol. So it's actually not going to be, it probably shouldn't be 52 visits a year on average. This is even more important here with this intensive therapy because again, you might have some that maybe you're seeing 2 or 3 times a week for intensive therapy for some period of time, but again, that's not your whole patient population. So what you need to do here is put the average number per patient per year, so per active patient. Now, what's going to be able to help you with this is you can look down here at this total services performed for the month, and you'll be able to see, okay, and this we call general services and then specialized services. So this shows you basically the number of units or services or sessions that you're providing of each type per month. And so we're saying here we're providing 46, sessions of this general service per month. We're providing 20 sessions per month of this specialized services. So that will kind of help you actually visualize and say, okay, am I doing this right? Am I having reasonable assumptions up here? Okay, so I hope that helps and makes some sense. Here, what we're going to do is an average percent of fee reimbursed. We're going to assume that should be 90%. And so we're going to assume that, some percentage of what you bill to insurance might not actually get collected, or maybe some of what you try to bill for private pay isn't collectible. Okay, and that's really it on the revenue side. Now, on the operating expense side here, what we'll be able to see here is you can set a fixed dollar amount expense. So we could say this is fixed at $200 a month. And then what we might have is some of our expenses might be a percentage of revenue. So if we're charging private pay with a credit or debit card, we can set a percentage of revenue and set that at 0.02. So that'd be 2% of total revenue would be credit card processing fees, for example. This could be our insurance cost, might be a percentage of revenue. You could have a billing service. You might hire someone to help bill to insurance or Medicare, Medicaid, and you can, again, that could be a percentage of revenue. 6% is something that we often see as a common expense there. Now, on the salaries, so this is our last input tab, we can set a speech therapist. We've got the category as a provider here, and we have a minimum annual salary of $60,000. We have taxes of 7.65%. That's the employer taxes. We set benefits to 10% of the salary, and we're going to start. I should actually adjust this to be. We're going to bump that to month 25. Okay, so for the first 2 years, what we're saying here is on the salaries tab, this is our last input tab. We're going to have speech therapist 1. We can set the category here as provider, and then we're going to set an annual minimum salary here, and we're going to say, maybe this is you're going to pay yourself $60,000. You have employer taxes of 7.65%, 10% for benefits. You're going to start in month 1 and in month 60, the end of the 5-year model. And you've got one of this particular provider, of this employee. And then let's say you're going to give yourself an annual raise, 3%. Now, let's say we're going to hire a speech therapist 2 after year 2. And I'm actually going to remove this to make this make a little more sense. So let's say now we hire speech therapist 2 after year 2. Also going to pay a base salary of $60,000 as a minimum, starting in month 25. And then you'll notice this variable compensation section over here. So what I did here is we're going to assume that you are going to pay this new therapist that you're bringing on commission, or the ability to earn a commission, if they generate enough revenue. So let's say they are now generating 50% of the revenue. Maybe you are generating the other 50%. You're not going to pay yourself a commission because you're going to make the profit of the business, right? That's your commission, is the profit. Now, what we're going to say here is this new therapist is going to earn 30% of revenue, of the revenue that they bill, and they're going to be responsible, or they are going to bill once they start, they're going to bill 50% of the total revenue. And so what the model here is going to do is it's going to calculate how much they're generating in revenue based on the revenue projections. And if that ends up being greater than the 60,000, then they're going to earn the 30% variable compensation. So it's going to do the math, and whichever is larger. So if 30% of their revenue is less than a 60,000 annual salary, they'll make a 60,000 annual salary. But if 30% is greater than 60,000 annual salary, they'll make the higher number. Okay, so that's how that's working. We can also add a speech therapy assistant, for example. We also add an assistant in month 25 to help support, you and the new therapist as well. Okay, that is it on this model. So here's kind of what it looks like then after we have that all filled out. We can see, starting in the first year, 285,000 revenue, ramp it up to almost $750,000 by end of year 5 with some nice healthy profitability there. So that is it. If you need help customizing or filling this out, happy to help with that. Reach out to us at support@ProjectionHub.com. And again, thank you for watching to the very end. So if you are still with us, hop down to the description of the video below So look in the description of the video below. There'll be a link to a form. If you fill out that form, we'll send you a discount code via email with our latest discount code that you'll be able to use to take a discount on this template as our thank you to you. And if you found the video to be helpful at all, we'd love it if you liked our video here, give us a thumbs up, and then subscribe to our channel so you can learn more about creating projections, about getting SBA loans. That's what we talk a lot about here. So hope that helps. Thanks.